To start up this machine, you need to come up to it and release the emergency stop. The power light will come on over here on the panel, but the machine's not ready to go yet. Once you've released the e-stop here, you then need to press the power button. The machine will then home itself, and now it's ready to operate. The door must be closed before the machine will home itself, because there's an interlock on the door. To shut the machine down, just hit that e-stop. I'm going to demonstrate now how to change the tool on this MDX 40. In the tool cupboard is this wooden block. It's got the collet holder spanners in it. The big spanner goes and holds the top, and then the small one goes to the collet itself. Just loosen that, and then you can unscrew it. The cutting tool will come out. I'm going to replace it with this engraving tool, and then we'll change that engraving bit which is broken there after that. Now I'm just going to loosen that Dremel tool holder, drop the broken bit out, and insert this V bit. This is an engraving bit. And that's it. That's all you need to do to change the cutting tool in this MDX 40. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this piece of acrylic sheet to be engraved. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find a straight edge and align it to that straight edge over here on the left. I flip the material. I'm just going to tear off a strip of this double-sided tape, one there and one there. That should be enough to hold this in place for a simple engraving. I'm just going to line that up nicely at the edge there, and then stick it down. The double-sided tape will have enough adhesion to hold this in place while I do the engraving. Setting the X, Y and Z origin. To do this, we need to use the program called vPanel. vPanel is your interface between the machine and the PC. Unfortunately, the MDX 40 doesn't have any hand controller, so the only way to hand jog the machine is to use vPanel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these arrow keys here to move the Z and X axes around into position. You can just simply hold that down to move it into position, and then if you want to accurately locate it, you can use the 100, 10 step and 1 step to move the machine to an exact location. The Z height, I suggest adjusting that with the spindle running. Unless you've got somebody there next to the machine with you, you can't actually visualize this, so you have to walk backwards and forwards between the machine and the computer to make sure your Z's are correct. If you use the spindle running and lower the Z carefully, you'll hear when it first touches the material, and then you'll be able to know that you're at 0 on the top of the material. Start the spindle running, and then I'm going to use these controls to hand jog the machine into the 0 position. So the first thing I'll do is lower the Z height so it's a bit closer to the work. I'm just going to drop that down a little, and I'm going to set the Z origin here. I want to set the Z origin to here. So click Z origin and apply, and that will set the Z origin right there. Now to set the X and Y origin, I'll just move over to the left. I'm going to set the X and Y origin here. apply, turn off the spindle and close. Right, what I'm going to do is set up a job for engraving on the MDX 40. I'm going to use VCarve Pro and create a new file. I'm going to match the dimensions of the material to the dimensions of the artboard. The height was 150 and the width was 195. The thickness of the material is 6 millimeters. So I click OK, and now the artboard here, I can put my vectors in here. You can just as easily bring vectors in from Adobe Illustrator or SolidWorks or any other files that you might have made. As long as they're 2D vectors, you can do them in here. But to keep it simple, I'm just going to use VCarve's inbuilt Create Vectors tool. I'm going to do a simple text. We'll call it NCAT CNC. Click Apply. Now I want to move those vectors into the middle a bit more. So I'm going to go to there and hit the Move tool. Move that around and I'll enlarge it so that it takes up the width of the work. Might even put a little rectangle around it. Use that rectangle tool. Alright, I'm going to select all of those vectors and then I'm align them to the center. So the vectors that are selected now, ready to be engraved. So over here on the Toolpaths menu, I'll just hit that and I'm going to hit that little pin so that it stops hiding. I'm going to go over here, create a new profile, and this, because I'm using an engraver bit, I'm going to do this engraving on the vectors. The start depth is 0 millimeters and the cut depth is 0.1. For now, we might need to go back and change that, but for now I'm just going to set it on 0.1 and I'm selecting the tool, NCAT Engrave. It's a 30-degree, 3 millimeter engraving tool. Now I'm just going to go here and create a new name for that profile and call it Engrave. Click the Calculate button. You can see here the red line is a rapid and the blue line is the engrave path. We can do a preview path and that will show a preview onto the material, what it's going to look like. You can scroll around, look at it from different views. Right, I'm going to close that toolpath now. Come up here and select it. And I'm going to go here to Save Toolpath. Now I just want to tick here that I want to output the visible toolpaths at once. I'm going to use the Roland MDX 40 post processor. I tick this box here to output directly to the machine. Now I've already set up the X, Y and Z 0 on the MDX 40 and I've set the tool speed and everything in VCarve Pro. So all that's left to do now is to click this Output Toolpaths. Okay, machine's over here ready to go. Clicking Output Toolpath now. Yeah, probably not too bad for this plastic, but you wouldn't mind with aluminium though. Point one, and I started below the surface. Okay, now that it's finished cutting, I'll let the machine go home. Hit the View button on the panel here. View button is there. And then open the panel. And there we have it. We've engraved into the piece of plastic successfully.